Hello, my name is Mackenzie Henderson with the She's Unlimited podcast. The podcast is dedicated to showing girls everywhere that there is no limit to your success. Today, we have a very special guest, a pharmacist, a corporate America high end earner and performer, a wife, and influencer, Dr. Nay. Hello, Dr. Nay. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Hi, Mackenzie. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, I want to talk a little bit about pharmacy and what inspired you to choose pharmacy as your career path, and were you always interested in the medical field?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I have always been interested in the medical field. I was pre-med in undergrad. I graduated from Michigan State University. And even though I was interested in the medical field, I never really knew what in the medical field I wanted to do. And so when I graduated, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go to med school. And so I started studying for my MCAT. I did a post-bac program for a year after undergrad just to kind of raise my science GPA. And then I went to get my master's. And when I was at my master's program, it was a program that also had a pharmacy department. And I never really was introduced to pharmacy until I was actually around those colleagues of mine just studying for pharmacy and getting their PharmD and kind of seeing everything that they could do in the role. And I just felt that it was just a lot of different avenues that you can take career-wise when it came to pharmacy. And I just thought, it was really interesting. And so at that moment, I switched what I wanted to do. And after I got my master's, I then went on to Howard to get my PharmD.
Okay, that's cool. So, do you ever work as a pharmacist before transitioning to become an MSL?
I did not. One thing about Howard is it really introduces you to a lot of just different jobs you can do. And so like from the first year, you are introduced to more than just retail or hospital pharmacy. Actually, Howard is really big on industrial pharmacy. So, a lot of the students come in and they're taught just about the different jobs in the pharmaceutical industry that they can do. And even jobs outside of pharma is like managed care or just other things like that. And so from my first year, I kind of knew that I did not want to work in the pharmacy. That's just not really my personality, really to just do the same thing day in and day out. And I just felt that it was really interesting. The pharmaceutical industry itself was just interesting. It had a lot of cool careers. And so I kind of just started exploring what was out there, doing internships, just talking to people, growing my network, until I kind of came to a conclusion of what I wanted to do. But I didn't enter into the pharmaceutical industry right after I graduated. I actually went an adjacent career. And so this was my first year being in medical affairs in the pharmaceutical industry. So it's been a great year, definitely fulfilling. So I would say like that's really the benefit of programs like Howard and HBCUs where they're teaching their students just different career paths.
Yeah, that's really good. So I know that there's a lot of different avenues you can take with pharmacy, but what is the differences between a medical science liaison and medical sales?
Yes. So I am a medical science liaison. And so really the difference is the scope of conversation. So when you're at MSL, you are really the scientific expert of the company. And so when you're having conversations with physicians or KOLs, key opinion leaders is what we call them, or HCPs, which is healthcare providers, you have the autonomy really to have those high scientific conversations. So you're keeping them abreast of any recent data that your company may have recently presented, or you're going over old data, or you're having discussions about what is going on in the field that you're in. And so I'm in neuroscience, sleep medicine. And so I have high level scientific conversations about narcolepsy and idiopathic hypersomnia. And so when you're in sales, that scope is kind of limited. Like you're not really allowed to talk about those high scientific conversations. Your job is to sell. And so you can stay on label. And so like the label is what you might see from a prescribing information package insert of just the label of what is indicated for and what are the side effects. Like, so those are like the science things that the sales reps can talk about, but they can't really get into the data, like the clinical trials and really just going deep into that scientific conversations like MSOs can. And so what MSOs take out of those conversations are just insights. Like, what are these physicians thinking about our medication or about the field? What would they like to see that may change within the field? How are they viewing the landscape? What are their patients saying about our medication? And so we're taking those insights back to our company. And that's really helping the company shape strategy to how we maybe market our products or anything from a medical perspective that we can add in context to help them kind of familiarize themselves with our product.
Okay, that's really cool. I was also wondering about, you mentioned at Howard that there were so many different ways that you can be exposed to so many different careers. How do you think it impacted your overall career in post-grad?
Yeah, I mean, I think being involved with the organizations that Howard offers, such as APHA or IPHO, which is the Industrial Pharmacy Organization. And so you're really embedded into those different areas from day one. And you can get involved from your P1 year all the way through your P4 year. So I held leadership positions in some of those organizations, as well as networking. So reaching out to former and present colleagues of mine and students at Howard who may have entered into the pharmaceutical industry, and just getting information from them and picking their brain on what worked for them, what didn't work, what did I have to do, what do I need to get to where they were at. And so I think, all of that kind of encompassed helping me navigate that space post-grad.
Okay. Have there been any specific mentors, programs, or internships that helped you on your journey?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, first school, IPHO, APHA, I had great mentorship through my professors. Outside of school, there's a Young Black Pharma organization, and that's essentially Black healthcare professionals in pharma. They may be in sales or medical or clinical development or whatever that may be, but it's really just a network of people to bounce ideas off each other, or, if they see job opportunities, helping them navigate the interview process. And they hold a yearly conference once a year, but they also have like regional meetups that they do. And so I think that space is really helpful to navigate within the pharmaceutical industry. And then also, once I myself got into the industry, me and one of my friends, a colleague of mine, we actually started our own company where we help others actually get into pharmaceutical industry that don't have experience, because it is really hard to transition, especially if you don't have that network or if you just don't have that experience. And so we've noticed that trend, especially as we navigated the space, because we both kind of transitioned from not really doing a fellowship post-grad that most students would do if they do want to enter into pharmaceutical industry. I know Howard currently has different fellowship opportunities that they have with various pharmaceutical industry companies, but we both didn't do that. And so, we saw that, you can do this without going that more traditional route. And so we started our company. It's called Maverick Medical Advisors. And we help those PharmDs, PhDs, DOs, any healthcare professionals really make that transition from clinical or academia into the industry.
That's really cool. So for anyone interested in making that transition, what advice do you have for them if they're in college?
Yeah, undergrad or in pharmacy school?
We can say both.
Okay.
for a pharmacy?
Well, I think it probably applies to both. Is networking is so important and it's so key, and really keeping that professional network. Anyone you meet, like keep in contact with them, like reach out to them, because they're going to be people that will help you along the way and they're going to look out for you. And I think that for me was just a tremendous help as I navigated the space. Like I could call one of, a former employee of mine that I see now as a director at this company. And I'm like, oh, I see a position open at XYZ pharma company. Do you know the hiring manager? Can you give me a referral? Because a lot of times they pull in applications with referrals from inside the company. And so, even just calling someone from Young Black Pharma, like, hey, can you look over my resume, or can you help me with interview prep? And so I think growing your network and keeping your professional network wide, and just continuing to grow that as you transition from college to pharmacy school or whatever program that you're into the working world is key.
Yes, that's some good advice. So do you need a background as a pharmacist to excel in the field?
Yeah, so you do need an advanced healthcare degree, but you don't necessarily just need a PharmD. So if you look at my current team, we're a team of PharmDs, PhDs, MDs, DNPs. And so, I do know for 90% of companies, they do want you to have that higher level doctoral healthcare professional degree. However, I have seen those without that had extensive clinical experience. They may have just had like a PA or a nurse practitioner degree enter into MSL roles. However, with sales, you don't need a higher level advanced healthcare professional role. You can enter into that with a bachelor's degree.
Okay, that's good to know. So I see you travel a lot for work. What is your work schedule like, and what is the coolest place work has taken you?
Yeah, so I really think that varies. So my territory is more regional based. And so I kind of cover the whole west half of the country. So I live in Texas currently, but sometimes you'll see me in the Midwest in Michigan and Chicago, or sometimes you'll see me on the West Coast in Seattle and LA. So every day is really different. And I will say this year has taken me to some pretty cool places. I think my favorite place this year was Vancouver. I've never been. I've always wanted to go to Vancouver. We went to a conference out there, and I was just able to explore and see the city, and it was so beautiful. And so, yeah, every day really just looks different in where I go and what I do and who I talk to.
Yeah. So how do you manage work-life balance, especially with a busy schedule?
Yeah. It's so important to make time for yourself, right? Like I think, especially with roles like this, where you're in the field and you're traveling, it's kind of hard for self-care. But, you have to, the beauty of being an MSL and a sales rep really is you get to make your own schedule. At least with that MSL, you get to pick what days you want to travel and what times that you want to travel. And so, if you're looking at the week and you see that you have things that you want to do, maybe you have a friend's event, or maybe, this workout class that you want to go to, you can really alter your schedule around you. And so I think for me, it really was, making sure I was still taking care of myself, because sometimes you get so just embedded into your work and it's like, oh my God, I'm working nonstop. I just need to chill and relax. And so, going to the gym, getting my hair done, hanging out with friends, maintaining those relationships, was just so essential to me. And, hanging out with my husband, we just closed on our house. So,
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so, it's really just setting that time aside for yourself and making time for yourself, because sometimes, you just get so embedded into the work and you're like, okay, I need time for myself. And so really it's setting time aside and doing that.
Yeah, that's good. And that's very important for any job role.
Yes, it is. It's key. It keeps you sane and it keeps you your best when you're working. So
That's true. So you mentioned earlier about networking. So how do you approach building and maintaining relationships with healthcare professionals?
Yeah, I think for me, it is really my personality. I think that I really just like to talk to people, right? And so, I listen more than I talk. And especially when it comes to, work, when you're talking to KOLs and HCPs, like the main thing is you're listening to what they're saying to you, right? And you're trying to see what that issue is that you may be able to solve. As far as other relationships with my coworkers or colleagues or just my friends, I just always really just try to just be that person that people can come to and come to talk to. And if I need help, I always reach out to them and just check in. I think checking in is just so important when it comes to maintaining relationships with friends. But, with these doctors and HCPs, it's really, building their trust and getting their, building those relationships through trust and through listening more than talking. I've seen that to be just helpful for me as I navigate those professional relationships.
Yes, that's true. Do you see any trends in the pharmaceutical industry and for aspiring MSLs to be aware of?
Let's see. So I will say that there has been an influx of MSO roles this year that I have seen. Products are getting approved yearly, and there's always opening. MSL is a really important role within the pharmaceutical company, and so a big thing for me is navigating, looking into what roles are out there. What's out there is LinkedIn is your best friend. So typing in, maybe even having alerts set, sometimes I do that, medical science liaison, or maybe typing it into the search bar and seeing hiring managers that may have posted a role or recruiters that may have posted a role. And so I have seen a trend just of the efflux of those positions opening up. And so I think that's something that is going to continue in the future.
Okay, that's good. And yes, LinkedIn is your best friend. I just updated my account, and there's so much information on there for
Yes.
everything from college to career. It's just a wealth of
Mhm.
information on there.
Yeah, I always say LinkedIn is like your second resume. You want to have it updated. You want to basically have that information that you have on your resume, because recruiters oftentimes will look at your LinkedIn before they look at your resume, and they'll message you just based off of your LinkedIn. And so I always say keep that updated.
Yes, that is very important. For the next question, what is the biggest challenge you face in your job and how have you overcame them?
Yeah, the biggest challenge. That's a great question. I would say for me, my current MSL role was new to the team, and it essentially required me to start from scratch and building my own territory out and figuring out who I need to talk to. It was more of a non-traditional MSL role where I was really speaking to those healthcare providers who never really had contact with pharmaceutical companies before. They never talked to an MSL. And so it was really hard getting in front of them and getting them to just give you your time. When they're in their clinics, they're just so busy. They have patients 9 to 5 every day. And so they just don't have time, to talk to you. And so I would say with me covering such a large territory and really starting from scratch, that was the hardest part this year for me, especially because I was new to the role as well. So I was navigating what worked best for me, because every MSL doesn't operate the same way, and every MSL doesn't, they have different strengths that they utilize. And so trying to figure out my C's as well as, how to grow this territory, I think was the biggest challenge for me in 2024.
That's interesting. Additionally, what are some pros and cons of your career?
Yeah, I would say the pros, of course, autonomy. Like I said, being able to build your own schedule, like you're not in a pharmacy where you're working 9 to 9 or 10 to 10, or you're not in a hospital where you have to work holidays and, you're missing time with me. I would say that autonomy of being able to really pick and choose when you work and how you work. So I think that's really the main thing a lot of MSLs will say that they love about the career is that autonomy of the schedule. Of course, doing different things every day. Like I said, it's not every day. Monday does not look like Tuesday, and Tuesday doesn't look like Wednesday, right? And so I really love just being able to kind of navigate what those days look like and how, you know, I can be strategic in what I do. I would say cons is that it is a field-based role. And so depending on the company and depending on the role, like for me, you know, I am more regional based. So I cover a lot of territories. A lot of MSLs are like more smaller territories. So they may be state specific or city specific sometimes, or maybe 2 or 3 states. I'm covering 20 plus states, right? And so I would say that the travel can be a con for a lot of people, just because, you know, you do have to travel, you have to pick up and you have to go. And sometimes, you know, it is hard, especially when you might have a family or you might, you know, you have kids or, you know, a husband or things like that, where you have to leave for a day or two. So I could see how that can be a con to the role. But again, that's just navigating it. And a lot of people love to travel. I think another pro is the points that you get from traveling. Like, like being gold status on Marriott Bonvoy, where you can just use your points for your personal life and book a trip, or, you know, you get to pick your favorite airline. And so I think now I'm at a status where I just get upgraded to first class every time I fly. So like, you know, you get to use all of those points personally. And so, you know, I think that the only major con of it, if you want to call it a con, for me would be the travel.
Okay, well, the cons don't sound that bad.
It doesn't. It's not bad at all.
So what is a crash course you would give to anybody who's interested in going into MSL? It could be a quick little synopsis of what you need to do, what you don't need to do, what you wish you did, just things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, the main thing is research the role and see if this is something that you want to do. I think that a lot of PharmDs or a lot of healthcare providers in general, you know, they think that this is just, you know, the best role ever. But sometimes like the role isn't what everybody can do, right? Like I think for this role, it really requires you to have an outgoing personality, and it requires you to be kind of an introvert. I mean, I have seen introverts excel as well, but you know, you're having conversations daily. Like relationship building is the basis of the role. And so you really have to be that go-getter and be that person that, you know, is having these face-to-face or virtual conversations daily. So if that's not something that you're comfortable doing, that may not be like the best role for you to do. And again, a lot of people don't like the travel. So, you know, I really would say research the role, talk to people in the role, get different perspectives, because everyone's perspective of the role is going to be different. As well as look into, if you are in pharmacy school, look into doing a fellowship. I personally didn't do one, but they are super helpful. So they're a year or two after you graduate where you're getting hands-on experience into the pharmaceutical company realm. You get different sectors in the pharma. You can be in medical affairs, you can be in clinical development, you can be in commercial, which is like marketing, and really getting that experience and seeing if it's something that you want to do. And then also those networks that you're building as you are in those fellowship programs. A lot of people do get hired on after fellowship, or, you know, they built their network so strong that they then go on to other companies and get roles after their fellowship. So I would say researching the role and continuing to build your network.
Yes, I hope you guys are taking notes. That was a lot of good information. So for the next section, it's questions from the girls. And these have nothing to do with pharmacy or medicine, but they're questions, some of them we can both answer. And it's just giving advice and girl talk.
Okay. Sounds
So
good.
for the first question, it is, we kind of talked about this already, but how do you maintain healthy relationships while balancing a busy schedule?
Yeah, I really think it's just being, you know, transparent with yourself, but as well as being intentional with your friendships, right? Like, I think adult friendships is like, oh, hey, let's hang out a month from now. But like, really keeping your word when you do make plans with your friends and like texting them and checking up on them, because, everyone goes through things, and mental health is just so important. So sometimes even just to check in with your friends, and vice versa. And so I think really just being intentional with your friends is so important in building and keeping those relationships, and kind of what I do. So I'm always, the one in the group chat, just making sure everyone is good, or setting a date where we're going to go out, or we're going to have a girls' day, or, with my husband, like, okay, we're doing date nights Fridays or Saturdays, or, whatever that may be. And so I think being intentional is important.
Yes, I agree. I also think that just making time for it. I mean, everybody's busy, but just making sure that you plan out your day and you are intentional about saying, yes, we're going to hang out this day and we're
Exactly.
not going to flake. And
Exactly. And
just make,
flaking's so easy to do, right?
yeah. So, for the next question, what is one thing you wish you knew about romantic relationships when you were younger?
Oh gosh, what is one thing I wish I knew? I wish I knew to never really compromise your morals or what you want for yourself, right? Like, I think a lot of times we do that in relationships, and we know, sometimes, in our heart of hearts, we know this isn't what we want, or this isn't what, maybe we should be doing. And so I think really just knowing yourself, I would say that, like, really getting to know yourself as you're continuing to grow, because me at 25 and me at 35 are so two totally different people. But I always try to continue to figure out who I am as I'm getting older. And so younger me, I would say, really just know yourself, and don't compromise on your wants.
Yes, I agree. Younger me is like 12, so I'm just listening. I'm
Well,
just
listen, you have a lot more growing to do. In relationships, they come and they go, right? But I feel like when I got married in 2023, and I met my husband in 2021. It was just one of those things where it was like, okay, I see why it did not work out with anyone else. Like, it was easy. And so, that's why I said, like, really work on yourself and continue to work on yourself. And so, that, I'm not going to accept these things, or, I think that's very important.
yes, that is all true. How do you navigate making friends and building a support system in college?
Ooh, that's a good one. Again, professional organizations. I would say get involved if you're interested in Greek life. So I am a member of Delta Sigma Theta, but I cross grad chapter. So I would say, that has been just a strong sisterhood for me that I navigated throughout pharmacy school, as well as post pharmacy school, and just having that network of sisters, and networking, and community service that we do throughout the United States, really. And so, getting involved, seeing, are there any maybe social groups in your city or state that you may be interested in? Or, I really think just getting out there and getting involved helps you meet people. Also, you never know, your coworkers. I think that I've gained really good relationships with people that I work with, to the point, like, we're friends now. And so I think those are also great relationships to have as you navigate professional life.
Yes, and I'll talk about high school. I feel like it's really important to find like-minded people and like-minded friends, because that makes everything so much easier whenever you guys are on the same road. You can hold each other accountable. You can always be there for each other because you guys know what your goals are.
For
And you have
sure.
goals.
Yeah, and I still have my high school friends to this day that we still, are super close and keep in contact with. But, also your adult friends are gonna have just a different area of your life that, when you get into the working world or college, and they're going to hold like a different place in your life. So I'm a firm advocate of continuing to expand your friendship group. I know a lot of people are like, oh, same friends, but you never know. Like, honestly, most of my good friends I met in my adult life. So, I just say keep an open mind when it comes to friendships.
Yes. So, last question. What are some must do experiences you'd recommend for someone in college?
Must do experiences: travel. I
Mm.
would say traveling. I would say um, get involved in something that you feel would be beneficial for you once you graduate. Maybe it's a sport like intramural, or something that that you feel that you can take and talk about after college. So I would say um, really just do what you do you really, like, because you're in college, have fun. That's my advice. I have fun in college.
That's good.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for coming on today. Are there any upcoming events or projects you would like to share with the viewers?
Yeah, again, make sure you check out my LinkedIn and my business page, Maverick Medical Advisors. We are accepting new clients. I will be starting a new MSL position this coming up week at AbbVie. And so, yeah, so I'm super excited about that. And so, if anyone wants to get in contact with me or just talk about the profession and just the pharmaceutical industry as a whole, I always welcome being a mentor and having mentees. So, yeah, I would love to do that. So that's it for me.
Yes, I will link all of Dr. Nay's links down below. Make sure to check out all of the pages. And thank you again for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Bye, guys.